Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all. Welcome to Iclad 2020, an virtual conference organized by TMB Integrated Learning Solution, or simply known as ISAS. Joining us today are participants from all around the world. Again, welcome to Iclad 2020. Let's take this opportunity to learn and network with each other. Thank you again for participating. My name is Mio Azli, Mio Maisa. You just can call me Mio. Currently, I'm the head of strategic leadership training and consultancy in ISAS, and I'll be your moderator for the first keynote session today. What is Iclad 2020? In the wake of the new normal brought by COVID-19 and the need to break the chain of transmission of this virus, the fourth ISAS International Virtual Conference on Learning and Development, or simply known as Iclad 2020, will be conducted virtually using 3D and also VR technologies for the first time ever. For this year, the conference theme is Intelligence, the Art of Learning. The objective of the Iclad 2020 are to equip all of us, the participants, with the relevant knowledge and chance to listen to different points of view and learn new ideas and trends in people's development and self-motivation from other organizations. Iclad 2020 also wants to play a role in providing participants with the necessary skills that can be used to compete in the modern labor market trends, besides to support the world agenda in the development of social and economic capital. For this first keynote session, we are fortunate to get the opportunity to hear a sharing by DATO Professor Dr. AZIZAN. She is the Director of General of IKIM, or rather Institute of Islamic Understanding of Malaysia. A little bit about her background. Prof. AZIZAN received her Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of Tasmania, Australia in 1978. She gained her MSc from University College of London in 1979 and PhD in Philosophy of Science from University of Lancaster, UK in 1989. She specializes in several areas such as biotics, interfaith, intercivilization dialogue, Islam and science, environmental ethics and religion, and sustainable development. She has published more than 200 books, book chapters, monographs, journal articles, and newspaper articles in above-mentioned fields. And recently, she has been appointed by Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister of Malaysia, recently she has been appointed by Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister as member of Panel Perundingan dan Pencegahan Rasuah, which is Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission. And that's a little bit background about her. And the topic for today is sustaining Malaysia's development through the inculturation of ethics and value. A very relevant topic indeed, especially at the moment as lots of organizations are realizing the importance of culture shift through core value practice. This is to achieve their organizational purpose and aspiration to ensure sustainable development of the organization. It is a very important initiative to ensure the organizations stay relevant in their industry. This is what TMB is currently attempting to apply the new corporate TMB identity among its staff. Surely it is going to be an interesting topic. Before we start the sharing with Prof, if later you have any questions, do share them in the pigeonhole. The link is as on the screen. And let's not waste more time. With all due respect, Prof. AZIZAN, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. my dear colleagues at TNB Integrated Learning Solutions Sdn Berhad or ILSAS, honorable delegates of Iclad 2020, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me to share with you some thoughts on the topic of sustaining Malaysia's development through the inculturation of ethics and values. So first of all, I shall give you a brief outline on what we will be sharing this morning. Firstly, we will look at some issues or threats to development that need serious attention. These include environmental crisis, moral collapse, the disappearance of meaning or values in life, and increasing gap between rich and poor. Secondly, we will dwell upon the importance of values and ethics. What are values and ethics? Yeah? And this will be in conjunction with our understanding of our worldview. So what is worldview and why is it important in the era that we call not only modern period today, but today's era is called the postmodern era. We are no more in modern climate, but we are in a time which is labeled as postmodern. Here we look at the need for holistic approaches in solving of problems that we deal with, and we also need to address the issue of having an understanding of cultural diversity and the skills needed to make everybody come together for a common purpose and goal in life. And then we will talk briefly about the need for a new language for harmonizing values with actions. Here we want to understand the different types of intelligences, the urgent need for strengthening values and morals, and also we want to link this with the future of Malaysia and its sustaining its development goals. Einstein said, without religion, science is blind, and without science, religion is lame. Syed Hussein Nas, a geologist and also a philosopher, said that the environmental crisis that we face today, and a lot of our problems today is connected to the environmental crisis, for example, the climate change. It is reflective of a spiritual crisis faced by mankind. And Confucius said that learning should be about being and not about having. So ladies and gentlemen, now we look at this slide that talks about values being the forgotten dimension in development. Today, do we realize that we are actually technological giants, but in effect, we are moral midgets? If you look at the picture, on the left-hand side, we have the physical architecture, as in the buildings, yeah? and who built the buildings? The engineers, of course. Yeah? But what is the building? It cannot be there unless there are physical substructures. Okay? What is the underlying framework? The footings, you have the concrete, yeah? And last but not least, the very foundation is made up of nothing but sand, rock, water, etc. Yeah? So similarly, in the social dimension, in the human life dimension, we have in our society language. Do we not? We have symbols, we have customs, we have laws, we have constitutions. We have banks, we have schools. Isn't that what life is all about in the social dimension? But what underlies what we do in these institutions is the cultural norms, the cultural assumptions, what you and I believe to be right and wrong. Yeah? And where do we get this notion of right and wrong? From our so-called world view, the way we look at life, the way we understand life. And who teaches us what our worldview is? Nothing but religion. It is religion that tells us this is good, this is bad, this is proper, this is not proper. Yeah. So today, all over the world, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, has become STEAM, STAAM, A for arts. Yeah. Some people even put in the word R, the alphabet R, which stands for religion. And in countries like Korea, Russia, and China, they are already taking up this issue. They are already looking at values. And where does values come from? From religion, from culture, from traditional beliefs. Since we are a multiracial country, since we are a multiracial and multi-faith world, we need to come to an understanding that there are certain belief systems, there are certain beliefs, certain notions of right and wrong, proper and improper, that we should be agreeing upon, regardless what our label is in terms of our faith. So then we go to the next slide, which is we look at Alvin Toffler. He is a very famous writer. And he once said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but they would be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So what is it that we have to learn? What is it that we have to unlearn? What is it that we have to relearn? Yeah. So we have to learn new stuff, of course. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about new ways of doing things, right? What is it that we have to unlearn? We have to unlearn all the bad habits. We have to unlearn all the bad assumptions. And what is it that we have to relearn? So many of us, we have religion, but do we actually pay attention to our religion? Do we really understand what religion says about a good life? So he says that there is no doubt that the rapid process of globalization taking place in the world today, as a result of technology, as a result of all the contributions of all you wonderful engineers, will not lead to sustainability. And this is a very important word. The way we are living, it is not sustainable. There are many issues that actually bring problems to us. The water issue, for example, that that made a lot of people in the area of Kuala Lumpur suffered. Recently, we'll talk about that later. So, as a result of technology, okay, we need to understand that all the progress that we have cannot be sustained into the future if we don't have also similarly a great movement of ethics. And what is ethics? Ethics is a body of do's and don'ts. In engineering, you have your SOP when you want to build anything. So seriously, in life, we also need to be looking at certain SOPs. How you bring up your children, how you treat your family, how you treat your environment. All this requires SOPs. And where do these SOPs fundamentally come from? It comes from religion, whether we believe it or not. So this is worldview. This is what we say. This is why we say reviewing our worldview or mindset. We need to translate all these things that we are learning and relearning, translate it into how we govern. How ILSAS is governed is very important. How Tenaga Nasional is governed is very important. How we manage, how we work, how we live and sustain the earth and ourselves. This is all part of the global ethics. So next slide, we look at another famous mathematician and philosopher. Why we bring forth examples of mathematicians and scientists is so that when we speak to engineers, we have a common point of understanding here. If we bring in people who are from fields of knowledge that are very alien to what you do, we may not find some points of concurring with one another. So a very famous mathematician who is also a philosopher, and by the way, very famous philosophers are also scientists, are also engineers. So Alfred North Whitehead, he said that the future of humanity depends on the harmonious relationship between the two great cultural forces of mankind, which is what? Science and religion. And religion is from the word religare, which means being tied to. Being tied to what? Being tied to a certain way of life which brings you good results. This is what religion means. So Einstein said, science without religion is lame. And religion without science is blind. And for you who are Muslims, people talk about the akli, nakli knowledge being put together. Akli is using your akal, your reason, and nakli is using the Quran, the hadith. So these two needs to be put together. Only then can we have a way of life, a kind of development for our country that is holistic, that is sustainable into the future. So next slide, we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Who is Maslow? Maslow is actually a social scientist, and he studied a lot of successful people, and he realized that human beings, for them to become persons who have fully realized their potentials, become the best leaders in life, for example, most successful in life. So they have needs. They have a hierarchy of needs. Firstly, they need physiological needs: food, water, warmth. And they need houses, they need clothing. And then they have safety needs. People need to feel secure and safe. And then people need to love, to be loved, sense of belonging and sense of having friends and having good relationships. And then people need to be appreciated. This is esteem needs. So do we realize that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 types of needs that you must give everybody before they actually can become the good people that we want them to be, the good citizens that we want them to be. So in the way we manage a society, in the way that a government rules a country, they must understand that these are the very important items that everyone must have. So the government, corporations must work towards this. Yeah, in our work life, in our duties that we perform every day, we are actually fulfilling these needs for ourselves and for other people. This is also the basis of mutual respect. If you think you need this to be the wonderful person that you should be, so do other people. So this is one example where science and religion and spirituality can be combined. So there's a kind of picture on top right hand side. That is for people who wants to go deeper. For Muslims, for example. So how is this in line with Islamic thinking? So in Islam, for example, those of you who are non-Muslims, just treat this as a learning situation. Yeah. So for Muslims, there are 3 types of very important relationship: man and man, man and the creator, man and the environment. So all these relationships must be good, must be balanced before you get a happy human being. And why is a happy human being very important? Because a happy human being is the basis of a happy society. Next slide. So just to bring back ourselves to the fact that today we have to understand the reality that we are suffering what is called we are suffering the effects of a highly industrialized society. And about 30 years ago, some authors, some thinkers already saw this coming, and he said that the problem with technology is softened by the comforts of technology, fascinated by its gadgetry. Isn't that what we're going through today? Everybody is talking about the abuses of gadgetry, especially among children. Reliant on its constant companionship, addicted to its steady delivery of entertainment, seduced by its promises, awed by its power and speed. Yeah? In America, at least, 40 years ago, Americans are intoxicated by technology. And I think we can still see this happening today. And technology feeds our pleasure centers, physically and mentally, but its intoxication is squeezing out our human spirit, hence intensifying our search for meaning. So that's the flip side of technology. It entertains us, it gives us what we want in terms of thinking and feeling, yeah? But at the same time, it robs us of the time that we need, the moments that we need to reflect who and what we are. So this is where religion comes into the picture. So just now we spoke about worldviews. Alvin Toffler says we need to change what worldview we're talking about. Worldview means what we believe, our belief system vis-a-vis who we are, what we are, where did we come from, where do we go after this, and while we are here, how should we live? So in the world today, there's 2 dominant types of worldview, which is man-centered. Man is the measure of everything. Man can do everything. Yeah? By his reason alone, by his akal alone, he can know and solve everything. Yeah? And the resources around him, like fossil fuel, oxygen, water, these are all infinite resources. And if we run out on the surface of the planet Earth, we can go to other planets. Opposite to that is the environmental group, who believe that man is not the measure of everything. Reason needs to be aided by values, and resources are finite. Resources being finite is true, because nobody will dispute the fact that there is only so much water on the face of the earth, there's only so much minerals on the face of the earth, and we need to sustain our use of it so that future generations will be able to survive also. And taking the best of these 2 worldviews would be the so-called religious worldview. And religion such as Islam actually dwell a lot on this. And if you look at the next slide, there are organizations in Malaysia today who already can see the similarity between what the world's the world's thinkers are thinking, yeah, how that is in line actually with what the goals of the Sharia is. So if you look at the 17 goals of SDG, SDG is what? Sustainable Development Goals. This is propagated by United Nations, yeah, and accepted by 193 nations who are members. And Malaysia is a member. In other words, Malaysia is going for zero poverty, is going for the other goals that are stated there, taking care of the environment. Everybody can see that. Yeah? And then, if you look at the Sharia, which is actually, in terms of the language, Sharia means the way. The way of what? The way of life. And this is what, for Muslims, the Quran is teaching us, how to live sustainably. And the maqasid, the goal of, the maqsud of the Sharia is protection of faith, protection of life, protection of akal, intellect, protection of lineage, our keturunan, protection of wealth. So, since ILSAS put a tremendous amount of value on intelligence. In fact, your theme is intelligence, the art of learning. Yeah, and I think this is highly relevant. And today, I think not enough intelligence is being put into the meaning of intelligence. So, what is intelligence? It is the intellectual capability of humans marked by very complex cognitive feats. Cognition means learning. Yeah? So, learning is a feat, it's an achievement, and it requires a very high level of motivation and self-awareness. So motivation, how do you keep, isn't that a problem today? How to keep people motivated in any organization? The problem of management is how to keep people motivated. Yet people demand higher salaries, people demand better working conditions, right? But they don't realize that they are not giving as much as they should. And they are not people who are aware, who understand what is the real problem. So through intelligence, humans possess the abilities to learn, form concepts, to understand, apply logic, and reason, recognize patterns, plan, innovate, solve problems. No, we're not trying to do a textbook here. No. This is just to recap. Yeah, because many of us are already professionals, already way into what we are doing. Yeah, but in terms of you recruiting new people, in terms of you, like ISAS, yeah, you train people. So I think it's good for people to look again. Let's go to the next slide. What is it that is required besides intelligence for success? Hard work. Difficult material can be grasped step by step, incrementally. See, the novice, the young person can become the master. So how do you actually become excellent in your career? This way, yeah, hard work. And then growth comes at the point of resistance. Many a time you'll be tested, you'll be challenged. The boss will throw at you a certain problem and you cannot fix it. And what do? Yeah? So it is there that intuition. Yeah? Intuition is a very metaphysical word. I don't think there's a lot of the word intuition in a textbook of engineering, but lo and behold, believe it, it exists. And the whole idea of bringing in religion into our discussion today is that if you understand enough of religion, you'll understand that there is another type of intelligence that is inside all of us that we seldom talk about, and that is the intelligence of the heart. The heart, according to latest research, is the most intelligent organ in the body, not the brain. The brain, in fact, listens to what the heart says. It's the heart that actually colors the brain. So if the heart is brown, analogously speaking, yeah, or like teh tarik or whatever, it will be like that. So if the heart is clean and pure, okay, and how do you clean it and make it and purify it? By doing good deeds, by being moral, by having the right worldview, by doing the right things in life, yeah, which is what we were saying before. So there's 7 types of intelligences. People always talk about linguistic intelligence, logical, mathematical, spatial. I think engineers, you score very high, yeah, 1, 2, 3, yeah. And then there are people, musical intelligence, and then there's the athletes, body, kinesthetic, and then the interpersonal, people who talk a lot, yeah, I wouldn't say like me, but this intrapersonal, interpersonal communications has to do a lot with spiritual intelligence. It deals a lot with that. How do you get along with people? Interpersonal. Okay? How do you manage a good society, a peaceful society, by people having good hearts, having good spiritual intelligence? So what do we need in life? Integrity, responsibility, forgiveness, compassion. These are the things that we don't have enough. If you remember the graphic about the university education, these are the values that we are talking about. Integrity, responsibility, forgiveness. So we have moral intelligence. Yeah? What is moral intelligence? So moral intelligence is the intelligence that understands that and can feel and can be convinced that doing good is the way to be. Yeah. So akal, actually, Malay word for reason, for intelligence. The akal, the root word also means that you are being tied to the truth, to the right things. So we don't have much time for for elaborating, and we hope that we just have incited some excitement in yourself. But a moral right is something that is real and is true to human nature. And we say this as an empirically verifiable fact. We are not simply throwing empty ideas to you. And in the religious sphere, ikhtiyar or efforts actually is commanded, is important. Because in the religious life, people also talk about suffering. If the Creator is so merciful, how come, we are tested every day? If you read at the meaning of things, being tested is the method for you to become better and better human being. And Allah also commands ikhtiyar. Ikhtiyar means effort. And when you do ikhtiyar, when you're doing effort, that your intelligence comes into the picture, your creativity comes into the picture. And for this, we are supposed to be able to, after all of that, to make good choices, moral choices or bad choices. So bad moral choices, either they are made intentionally or otherwise, leads to, guess what? Zalim. Zalim means injustices, or in Malay word, dosa, which comes from Sanskrit word meaning destruction. So when we do dosa, sometimes we understand that we are going against something. Sometimes we don't. But the point is, if you avoid it, then you would have avoided catastrophe. So this is the importance of morality and having moral intelligence. And for that, you need knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Both scientific knowledge and, like we said earlier, STEAM. STEAM and stream. You need the arts, you need the traditional teachings, values. Emotional intelligence, I'm sure we've heard of it also. So emotional intelligence is something that allows you to take hold of your emotions. Emotions are very powerful sources of energy. We cannot dwell too long here, but there is enough studies being shown that between IQ and EQ, emotional intelligence, which is more important for you to succeed in life. If you have to make a choice, absolutely, EQ is more important. Sometimes you are very clever in terms of your languages, mathematics, but you cannot deal with people. You cannot read people's emotions and all that, so you cannot succeed too much. And then, again, it is linked at the end of the day to managing the heart, because they say that emotions come from the heart, but there is also a kind of knowledge that you can have where you can control your emotions. So finally, we talk about spiritual intelligence. And spiritual intelligence is innate. It is innate. It is. We are born with it, and it is something that allows us to connect with something larger than the self. Larger than the self, the Creator, the source of our being here, who put us here, and this is a perpetual question which some civilizations have stopped asking because they don't have the means to find out. So those who have faith, they have a means to find out. So we urge you to, on top of your genius in artificial intelligence and all of that, to actually relearn the traditions. So the Quran for Muslims, for example, sees spiritual intelligence as an integrated view that deals with questions of existence and creation, modeling the texture of human intention, morality, law, and social interactions. In other words, spiritual intelligence makes sense of all the things that happen around you, inside you, past, present, and future. So for those who are, sometimes they feel bad and don't know what to do, so they go for drugs, they go for alcoholism. No need to do that. If you go to your traditional faith knowledge, you can actually find the answers. So for Muslims, of course, it's Quran and Hadith. As spiritual intelligence, the ability with which we exercise goodness, truth, beauty, compassion. So unfortunately, these are, if we take the influence of some civilizations, we won't mention names here. Have you heard when children go to school, they say that there's this word, N-U-R-D, nerd, or is it N-E-R-D? If you're good, you're a nerd. So you see what has happened, people have changed the value. You should be wanting compassion, you should be wanting truth, you should be wanting kindness. Okay? But these are the exact values not being proposed to be good values. What is good today is the opposite. So some people do go out of their way to do bad things. So you have computer games that actually ask young people to do things that finally make them take their life, for example. So you think about it. So those of us who are IT engineers, apps engineers, so can we turn the clock? Can we turn the coin? Yeah, we can, I think. So religion, for example, in Islam, gives the greatest importance to the seeking of knowledge. Knowledge is very important. Knowledge is something also that has lost value today. People don't give a high price to knowledge. People don't think it is important. There's a lot of information, but not enough knowledge. Yeah? And there's a lot of knowledge, but not enough wisdom. This is something else also. So I think the community of engineers have a very critical role to play in leading society, because if you look at many organizations, and I say this not because I'm speaking to engineers, and this is the greatest respect to other people who are not engineers, but I think the potential for this community of professionals to lead the way is very, very high. And I think in Malaysia, for example, beginning with ILSAS, let's forge ahead with this kind of thinking. So in the Quran, for example, in Surah Al-Alaq, yeah, and as to whether religion is important in development, yes, it is. If you look at this caption in the newspaper, it's not just in Malaysia, it's all over the world as well, that people are realizing that, since Einstein said it earlier on, it's one of the two most important cultural force in human life. So we in Malaysia should not lag behind in this. And then next slide, there is a very important research that has been done that make people understand that in science and technology, when people do research, there is the necessity for a sense of awe. Awe means you believe that there's something greater that is beyond you, that is waiting out there. A person with awe, when you look at a beautiful flower, if you look at beautiful nature, as an engineer, maybe if you look at, I don't know, I'm not an engineer myself, but if you look at something, a circuitry, a kind of design, yeah. So it is this awe that makes you go forth. And in reality, metaphysically speaking, this is the Creator's way of giving human beings more ideas, more creativity, and more development in life. And again, this next slide, in terms of environmental crisis, there is also a huge need for changing human behavior, because what's wrong with the environment is our behavior. Just take the issue of plastics. There is more plastics in the ocean today than there are marine life, for example. And so just you and I, we go to Port Dickson, we go to the beach side, what do you find on the beach? Number one, a lot of plastic garbage. Who does that? Why do we do that? Why do we keep on doing that? We see pictures of plastics being eaten by turtles, fish, and we know that there's also microplastics now that actually get into our body. So what does it take for us to stop this bad behavior? Yeah. So this is moral intelligence. And moral intelligence, as we said earlier, is sparked by religion, religious belief. And what we've just said is actually proven by scientific investigation. So there are papers like we've shown you there in the slide, and there are others. Yeah? And the next slide, we just recently suffered this situation, and there is a lot of talk today of improving the situation. And I think we all can agree that most critically, we must start with ourselves, yeah? With the choices that we make every day, to use plastic or not to use plastic, to throw or not to throw, to recycle or not, and so we can think about this. Next, we look at how having technological knowledge, scientific knowledge alone, if we don't have moral intelligence, we don't have moral values, will lead us in the wrong direction. This is an example of a report that says that certain people are selling their reproductive parts. In this case, is the female student selling her eggs, yeah, for a certain amount of money, not to pay her tuition fees, but to buy an expensive handbag. So this is like not respecting the body even. So if you don't respect your body, you don't respect yourself. You don't respect yourself, you cannot respect anything. So you are actually lower than the lowest of beasts, and this is what's stated in the Quran. So you don't, sorry to say, this sounds very harsh, you are not a human being. You're not fit to be a human being. Next, there is also a kind of technology today where people experiment with scientific methods, and you have a system now where you can have 2 females and 1 male giving rise to a baby. So in terms of genealogy, just now we speak about maqasid syariah, right? We speak about making sure your children and grandchildren have a proper lineage. So this is already destruction of the lineage, and the child will grow up asking, who's my mother? Yeah? So who will answer that question? And knowing who your father and mother is not just a biological question, it's also a moral question, psychological question. You can go crazy not knowing who your mother and father is. I think we can read about this later on. Yeah? And then if you go to the next slide, some people use artificial intelligence in a very funny way. They have a failure in terms of human relationships. So maybe this person, he needs someone who just say yes, 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 yes. So he cannot find one among human beings, so he create a robot. Yeah? So the question is, should we make this something normal? Who will answer that question? Yeah? And then digisexual, sexual attraction to robot and artificial intelligences. So human beings have stopped becoming human beings. So what will happen to the lineage? If everybody decide to marry robots, and then I think in a number of years, there will be no more new human beings on the face of the earth. End of life. Yeah? Jack Ma has a very intelligent, in quote-unquote, moral intelligence statement. Yeah? He says, don't worry about AI, because there are things that robots cannot do. There are things that are unique to the human being, such as human beings, they have values. Yeah? They have beliefs. They have independent thinking. They have teamwork. They have empathy, care for others. Robots don't have this. Much as people are trying to put this into robots, they're having quite difficulties, because as we said earlier, the cognitive functions in human beings, bold human beings, is different from machine learning. So Sophia, the bottom picture below Jack Ma is Sophia, the first robot. I think we heard about her. So the human mind is very subtle and is extraordinary, and you cannot tell a robot to be creative, for example. Yeah. So those people who are worried that the AI will take over, no. If we keep on being the human beings, and strengthen that. And this is the reason why we're doing this lecture today, so that we realize who and what we are, reclaim our humanity, and make the human being come alive, who will prosper not only himself but also the planet. Yeah? And he will be happy not just here, for those who believe, we will also be happy in the next life. So AI in the future, so everybody can read the literature, what has happened in the past vis-a-vis AI. But in all the developments, little concern has been given to the advances made in AI. People have not considered in the AI, the uniqueness of forms of human learning and capabilities of association. So there are certain things about human learning that you cannot put in the AI very simply. So human learning requires what we call meta-level competencies. In the religious language, it is called hikmah, or wisdom, or hidayah, or intuition. All these things are involved there. And for humans, it is important to know what counts as knowledge, how to acquire it, create it, learn it, how to regulate cognition, attention and emotion in learning processes, and what the social and practical motivation. Motivation is niyat, purpose and meaning. You will not have motivation if you do not have meaning and intention, which is niyat. And this is all at present not there in terms of AI development. So very quickly, the next slide. We don't have to worry too much about the future of artificial intelligence, as long as we are still in charge of the developments, as long as we imbue the science of artificial intelligence, is what is important in life. And this is supported by a research done by Melanie Mitchell. Her book is called Artificial Intelligence, A Guide for Thinking Humans. And her first statement in her book is, to my parents who taught me how to be a thinking human, and so much more. Therefore, maybe what she is saying, that we are not doing enough thinking, we are not doing enough justice to the strength that human beings have, to the wisdom that human beings have. So we still have to spread this idea that humans are still superior than robots no matter what. And in the history of Islamic civilization, earlier on we spoke about the golden age of Islam. Many of us perhaps are not aware that the first robotic engineer was a person called Al-Jazari in the 13th century. He is called the father of robotics because apparently the first robot in the world was created by him, and it was to serve the Sultan who wanted a gadgetry that could help him to do ablution, because the Sultan did not want his slave to delay his subuh prayers just because he needed his help in terms of ablution. Yeah? So this perhaps can spur us to some developments of our own in the future. In summary, we will say a few things. Yeah? In that, we will remind ourselves there is a real need today to understand the real meaning of intelligence. That intelligence is actually given by the Creator, much like our sight, hearing, and our five senses. It should be utilized in a proper manner, and there's a way for us to understand what is a SOP for proper usage of our intelligence. The truly intelligent people are those who apply their reasoning to nature, the Creator order, so as to arrive at the revealed truth sent by the Creator, seeking to live out those truths in their daily lives. What do we mean here? Intelligent person who understands that if he is thirsty, he needs to drink water, otherwise he'll be dehydrated. The truly intelligent person is a person who, when he is hungry, he needs to have food, but then he understands that he cannot take too much sugar, he cannot take too much of the bad stuff. Okay, so this is what we meant by the true intelligent person will be basing what he's doing to what is true in nature, which includes his own body. Nature begins with yourself. We have 40 trillion cells in our body. Yeah, these cells at this moment are on autopilot. What do you mean by that? Cik Asro, you have your 2 kidneys doing its functions. Haziq, you have your heart which is pumping. Are you in charge of the speeds of the pump? Are you in charge? Are you telling the kidneys to do this and to do? No, you are on autopilot, right? So this is the closest, easiest way to say that human beings actually being governed. Nature is being governed by another force that we must learn to understand who he is and to do things in line with what he is. And for the Muslims, his first 2 names is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the most bountifully merciful and giving rahmah and compassion to all of us. Those lacking intelligence are the ones who fail to reign. To reign means to control their tendencies for self-deception, for remaining blind to the scientifically provable divine purpose, and lives in varying degrees of heedlessness and hedonism. Hedonism means just for pleasure. And people who are 100% hedonists are people who don't believe there is life after death. This is the only life that we have. Therefore, it's regardless whether what we do is right or wrong, as long as we have pleasure. But then again, some pleasures actually fall under the category of self-deception, is it not? We think that smoking bad things is good for us, when in reality we know that each cigarette will contain thousands of poisonous materials, yeah, that actually will affect not only you but also your surrounding. So I think at ILSAS and everywhere in Malaysia, if we are very responsible organizations, we want our nation to have a high degree of civilization or tamadun. The word tamadun, civilizations, come from the word adab, and adab imply manners. Manners means good morality, which is important and manifested in all aspects of our life, in our politics, in our economics, and our social realities. Going back to the graphic that we showed, vis-a-vis we being technological giants but moral midgets. Yeah? So from the root word madana also comes tamadun, and it is life that is good, that is holistic, that is healthy, and it is most laden with values, with akhlaq or the right behavior. So this is the basis of development, the basis of civilization. And Malaysia is 63 years old today, and I'm sure all of us would like the next 63 years at least for Malaysia to be a peaceful nation, to be a developed nation. And how do we sustain into the next 63 years? We need moral intelligence, values to be imbued with all the fantastic science and technological and engineering knowledge that we have. So just as a kind of insight, small insight to those who are interested in history, where it was proven, if you put values and knowledge together, yeah, and you have good adab and akhlaq, you will become a very great civilization. You can look at the book called 1001 Inventions, where you will discover the golden age of Muslim civilization, wherein that Muslim civilization was a peaceful period vis-a-vis Muslims and non-Muslims. In Andalus, there were also non-Muslims. And in Andalus, people were inventing things, expanding knowledge with the help of Chinese civilization, Indian civilization, Syrian civilization, Greek civilization, and so on and so on. Yeah. So then some of the pictures there, and there was a exhibition called Sultan of Science, organized by Petronas. Yeah, everybody knows Petronas Twin Tower, and there is a museum there. And the next page will describe to you just some examples. In the engineering sector, you have the famous names of Al-Jazari, you have the famous names of Hassan ibn Musa, ibn Shakir, and the first kitab or book of devices, yeah, very important for the engineer, is a kitab called Kitab Al-Hiyal, or Book of Ingenious Devices. Okay? And finally, we show you this slide where we have to put together knowledge and values, science and religion, for us to have a proper civilization, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Boleh? Thank you, Prof. Wow, what a sharing, yeah. And I must say, Prof, you have brought a whole new and rare perspective on the topic, yeah. Some of the main points that we can gather from the sharing is, as what she said, yeah. There is no doubt that the rapid process of globalization taking place as a result of technology will not lead to sustainability if it's not accompanied by a movement of global ethics at an equally rapid pace. Secondly, reality of life in highly industrialized society is that technology feeds our pleasure centers physically and mentally, but its intoxication is squeezing out of human with hand, intensifying our search for meaning. Yeah, and last but not least, we need to realize who we are, reclaim our humanity, and make the human being come alive, who will prosper not only for himself, yeah, that will make him happy. My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'm sure you have us, yeah, and let's begin with the Q&A session. Okay, question number 1. Prof, this is the question for us, yeah. This is from our friend Inastuti Ramadhani. I believe she's from Indonesia, I guess, yeah. And her question is, in your presentation, resources is limited and it is important for employees to work hard. My question is, how to empower job resources when we face a lot of job demands? Over to you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much to our friend from Indonesia. This is a very important question and something that we face every day.
Yes.
Everywhere we work, I think, with very few exceptions, we have limited resources, either in terms of physical resources or human resources. Yeah. So in that situation, what do we do? So this is why I think we look at the issue of ethics and values and worldviews. We are going to have to embark on a new way of thinking, which is to place intention, meaning as something that is very important for all our human resources to look at. So to begin with, does our human resource, our staff, do they understand the meaning of what they have to do? Why is it important that they deliver what they need to do?
Yes.
Well, yeah, the why question has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And this is sometimes not necessarily easy to do, but there you are. Unless we are very clear, because as we said, time is limited, resources limited, money is limited. So we need to know exactly why we are doing A and not B and not C.
Yes.
And the time frame, yeah. And then this is where our cultural, religious values come into the picture. Kenapa saya mesti bekerja dengan baik? Why do I need to perform well? Because as a Muslim, for example, it is part of my ibadah. It is part of my servitude to my Creator. Secondly, of course, if I don't do it, if I don't get it right, society will suffer. My organization will suffer. So I hope that simple explanation can lead to other understanding. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Let's go for our second question. Yeah, okay. How to translate Maslow's hierarchy methodology to make it effective? This is from our brother, Dr. Zalima Yusuf. Prof?
Yes.
Yeah.
How to translate the hierarchy into something, into a reality. Okay. Maslow, it is very important to know that when he did this study, he did it over a substantial number of years. Not over 1 or 2 years he did this study. In other words, what he came to conclude is very important for us to take note because it is an objective study. So most basically, you look at the triangle, look at the hierarchy of the triangle. Most critical for any human being. And in any organization, the boss must look at all the staff's needs. Yeah. So people must have basic needs.
Yes.
Which is they need their home, they need food. Yeah. And then they need to feel secure.
Yes.
Secure as like they, they will not be ejected from their home the next day for no reason. Suddenly there'll be floods and all of this. Yeah, like in the case of Malaysia, at one point, we have disruptions in water supply. So people were very unstable. And then secondly, people need to. I'm not going through the Maslow hierarchy very strictly here. You can do that yourself. Next, most critical is that people need to be accepted. They need to feel that other people like them. In an organization, they need to have friends. They need to be able to think that what they do is important. They need not to be treated like, somebody which is not important. And then further up, we need people who can actually overcome their sense of inferiority complexes or superiority complexes. We need people to work together as a team.
Yes.
So if you have a football team, there are different positions, and each position has their own role. But each person cannot play his role properly if the others in the team does not support him. And others in the team can easily sabotage him if they don't cooperate, right?
Yeah.
And finally, after all these needs are fulfilled, do we get someone who is totally independent, creative, and someone who is a bonus to himself, to his family, to his society? Inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Okay. Okay, next question. From Dia Karima, yeah? Okay. There's plenty of talk among organizations on how to recruit, engage, and develop millennials. How we combine suitable learning and development to the point they are assuming the role of our next future.
Yeah, this is what it's all about. We congratulate Iclad for highlighting the fact that learning is a lifelong situation. Learning is a lifelong need. So in any organization to succeed into the future must practice continuous learning. Okay. So the question is the millennials. Okay, who are the millennials? So millennials, I think, are people who are very technology savvy. So we don't have problems vis-a-vis usage of technology. They might even be creating better technologies in the future. But it's very important to capture their minds,
Yes.
to capture their hearts. Like we said earlier, people nowadays, they want to know why they have to do something. Because there are so many things we can be doing. There are so many pathways that people can be following. If you just press the internet, you can go into many different worlds that take you into many directions. So in any organization, the team spirit, this is where the human dimension comes into the picture. The leader in the organization must be able to capture the hearts and minds. And what do we mean by hearts and minds? People must know, bottom line, okay, what the organization is trying to achieve. And then the millennial has to decide, am I in line with that goal or not?
True.
I think. So millennials are very independent minded. There's no such thing as I say so you do it. No, they are not like that. I think one of the special features of the millennial. All the better, because in the world today, we have problems like environmental crisis.
Yes.
We have problems like climate change. In 20 years' time, 30 years' time, if we don't do something drastic, we still do business as usual vis-a-vis our economy, vis-a-vis our technological outputs and all of that, then there might not be proper conditions for us to live properly in this world anymore. So how about that?
Yeah.
So I think millennials have to come to terms with the fact that they are also in a way very, very chosen.
Yeah.
Why are they in this very special position? Because they are meant to do extremely challenging work.
Yes.
And I think if we engage them and we give them the due respect that they need, I think you have to balance respect and also the need for them to be guided. Yeah. So everybody must understand that very important rule in this world. Before you learn to cycle properly, you'll be falling down a couple of times.
True.
So the process of learning is not to be denied. There is something called process, and processes take time. These millennials have to understand. Yeah, and this is the basic rule in life. So again, going back to the question, how do we ensure that they are with the organization in terms of the development, and what can we do in terms of their training? I think their training, if you like, if the organizers will allow me, and this is not to just simply put the organizers on a pedestal. I think ILSAS has a very good module and template for training people. So maybe our colleague who asked us this question, they can look up some of the modules that are being shared in the development and training sessions at ILSAS.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for that answer. Yeah. Okay. Prof, there's a question here. Yeah. In one of your summaries, you mentioned the truly intelligent ones are those who apply their reasoning to nature, the creator order. Yeah. So as to arrive at the revealed truth sent by the creator, seeking to live out those truths in their daily life. So the question is, for the benefit of all, could you please elaborate more on the role of IKIM to achieve all these expectations? Over to you.
Thank you very much for that question. IKIM was established about 28 years ago to increase the understanding of religion, especially talking about Islam here. Because we need to understand the Quran, for example, not just literally, but also in its relevance to reality in real time. And being the miracle that it is, I assume that we are talking to a Muslim viewer here, Tuan Haji. Because the prerequisite to this question and also to listening to the answer is the fact that you subscribe to the worldview of this religion. So the Quran actually is a miracle in that it speaks about things of the past, things in the current times, and things of the future. Some people speak about scientific miracles of the Quran, and some people object to this. The Quran is not a scientific book. No, nobody is saying the Quran is a scientific book,
But if the Quran says that all living creatures are created from water, now that is a biological fact. We cannot deny that. Yeah, our own bodies, for example, are 75 to 80% water.
Yeah.
Nobody can deny that. So on that premise, when the Quran talks about other things, yeah, when the Quran says that when you deal with family, you should do a certain way. When you deal with human relationships and when you deal with economic transactions, you must not lie, you must not cheat, and all that.
Yeah.
The Quran is very realistic in terms of what you need to do, because in the engineering system, for example, if one screw, if one circuitry is out of order, the whole system is what do you call it, is out,
Yes.
right? So similarly in human life,
Yeah.
it's in one of the slides, I think at the beginning we show this, okay?
Yeah.
We always talk about the importance of the physical dimension of life, and we know that the basis of all that is at the end of the day, enough mortar, enough concrete, if you're talking about a building, right?
Yes.
But in a social dimension, what is the most basic fundamentals that you need to adhere to? This is values, the rights and the wrongs, knowledge of the rights and the wrongs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what the Quran provides you with, and this is what IKIM is trying to propagate. So in IKIM, we have three research centers. One that focuses on environment and science, one on economics and social matters, one on politics and the Sharia, right? So we combine, we harmonize knowledge of the revelation, yeah, with knowledge that is acquired by human beings, which is we call akli.
Yes.
The previous one we call nakli. So we put this together and we try to give an understanding that will provide solutions to currently faced problems. For example, right now we say that the Sharia, the law, yeah, the do's and don'ts, the regulations that the religion propagates. The objective is to retain akal, to retain reason, to retain life, yeah, to retain lineage, to retain our economic well-being, yeah, that is wealth, yeah, and most critically, of course, to retain our faith. So anything in life, in the way that we manipulate nature, that will do harm to these 5 principles, so we should avoid in our use of science and technology.
Yeah.
So this is what one of the focuses of IKIM. In terms of economic systems, there are actually principles that will guide what do you call it, economic endeavors.
Yeah.
How you do transactions in businesses, there's certain principles that you should follow to avoid injustices,
Yeah.
to avoid greed. Yeah. So these are all the opposites of goodness. And if you want to translate this into simple language, what IKIM is trying to do is to show to you that the Quran, that the religion actually is offering solutions to issues that we all are suffering today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I really love that to hear that, because I can see an opportunity here that I mean, IKIM and ISAS for that matter, yeah, we can work together. How to address to develop this human holistically. It's not only about the science, also it's also on the religious part of it, and also, in other words, you mentioned about the stream, STREAM, yeah. So I think we can tackle the whole thing, yeah. So, Prof, I think that's all the time that we have for this session. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Doc, for your time. Yeah. And I must say, it's an eye opener. Yeah. And I hope that this will not be the first and the last discussion on this topic. Yeah. It's such a beautiful topic. Yeah, for everyone. And so, thank you again, Prof. Yeah. So next, we have another 2 sessions coming for today. Yeah. Firstly, at 2:30 p.m., we will have a mini classroom session, titled Research Methodology for Industry Player at Virtual Guru Room. My dear friends, remember, we are now at Iclad Theatre. Later on, please tune to Guru Room for the 2:30 p.m. Session, and followed by at 4 p.m., we will have a coffee talk session with Mr. Hazim Azhar, Chief Executive Officer of Capedia at Cendekia Cafe. Yeah. So, my dear friends, that's all for now. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you and bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.